Have you ever felt like you're living a life you didn't choose? That every day seems like just a tired repetition of the previous one? Waking up, doing what needs to be done, putting out fires, dealing with obligations, and before you know it, it's night again. Another day has gone by, and you're left with that silent feeling. I could be doing more. I could be being more. But time passes. Dreams get rusty in a corner of your mind. And without realizing it, you get used to not trying. You get used to the bare minimum. You get used to habits that distance you from everything you once wanted for yourself. But the truth is, nobody really gets used to it. We only learn to hide from our own conscience the discomfort of a stagnant life. There is an invisible enemy that controls our behavior without us realizing it. The mind that hates change. It whispers that it's better to keep everything as it is, even if it's not good. It convinces us that it's not worth trying, because a great transformation requires too much strength, too much courage, too much time. And so, we remain trapped. Not because we are incapable, but because we have been taught to believe that change only happens when we take giant steps. That to begin, we need to be ready. And that to achieve, we need to be perfect. But what if all of this was a lie? Imagine a life where every small step forward counts. A life where change begins even before motivation appears. Where you don't need to revolutionize everything in a single day, but rather take a tiny, almost imperceptible step and still be moving forward. What if I told you there's a Japanese method that transformed failing factories into global giants, ordinary workers into unbeatable professionals, and people like you and me into protagonists of our own stories? A method capable of dismantling bad habits, creating good behaviors, and bringing you closer to the life you've always wanted, without suffering, without anxiety, without that suffocating pressure of needing to change everything right now. Perhaps you're thinking, if this is so powerful, why didn't anyone teach me this before? The answer is uncomfortable, because we live in a culture of haste. We want everything yesterday. We want instant changes, extreme results, cinematic transformations. And when we don't get them, we blame ourselves. We get frustrated. We give up. We make promises that last a week, a day, sometimes a few hours, and then we go back to old habits, those that keep us stuck in the same place. The truth is, the more dramatic the change, the harder it is to maintain. The human brain rejects what scares it, and steps that are too big are frightening. What would happen if you took such small steps that your mind wouldn't even realize you were changing? What would happen if each day you accumulated a small but real victory? What would happen if, within weeks or months, you looked back and barely recognized the old version of yourself? The answer lies in Kaizen philosophy, the Japanese art of evolving a little every day, the art of transforming the difficult into simple, the impossible into possible, stagnation into constant progress. Kaizen isn't about unattainable goals. It's not about running non-stop. It's not about waking up tomorrow as a completely different person. Kaizen is about starting where you are, with what you have. It's about transforming your relationship with change. Instead of fear, curiosity. Instead of pressure, continuity. Instead of demanding perfection, accepting imperfection. Because imperfection in motion always goes further than perfection that never moves. Before I explain how this method works, I want you to pause and look at your own daily life. How many habits are hindering you today? Maybe it's procrastination stealing your plans. Maybe it's hours wasted on your phone while your dreams wait. Maybe it's a sedentary lifestyle, poor diet, or disrupted sleep. Or perhaps it's that silent self-sabotage, that inner voice that says, I can't, I don't deserve it, it won't work. All these habits, even small ones, shape your destiny. And continuing to repeat them every day is like walking in circles and believing that one day you'll find a new path. But what if the solution was never about motivation, but about movement? What if the transformation you seek is hidden in the simple act of doing a little more today than you did yesterday? What if that were the key to finally leaving behind a life that merely happens and starting to live a life you truly choose? Kaizen will teach you that you don't need to make great sacrifices to achieve great results. You just need to keep going. One step, another, and then another. Small, consistent, accumulated steps. That's how the impossible happens. That's how bad habits lose their power. That's how a new life begins, discreetly, but powerfully. In this video, you'll discover how this philosophy transformed Japan and how it can transform you. You'll learn why small actions have gigantic effects and how to use the power of habit to your advantage. You'll realize that the biggest change in your life can start today, and it can start with something so simple you might not even believe it works. But it works. You've probably tried to change before, maybe at the beginning of a new year, full of goals and promises. Maybe after looking in the mirror and feeling that something needed to be different. Maybe after a scare, a frustration at work, a painful conversation. And then you decided that now it was going to be for real. You joined a gym. You bought books you never read. You threw away that pack of cigarettes or swore you'd never drink soda again. And in the first few days, it even seemed possible. You felt strong, determined, ready to turn the page. But as time went by, motivation waned. Discipline weakened, and little by little you returned to the old pattern. And with that came guilt, discomfort, the feeling of failure. It's almost as if there's a force pulling you back to the same place every time you try to escape. The truth is, this force exists. It's inside your mind. It protects you from what it considers dangerous, unknown. For your brain, change is risky. That's why it creates very convincing excuses. Not today. I'll start on Monday. There's no point in trying again. But don't be fooled, these phrases are not harmless, they are shackles, and every time you believe them, they tighten a little more. Now imagine someone who has lived this reality their whole life. Person who dreams of a better life, but feels they don't have the strength to achieve it. Every night they promise that tomorrow will be different, and every morning they wake up and repeat exactly what they did yesterday. This person could be a friend of yours, a family member, or it could be you. But there's something no one has told you. It's not you who's wrong. It's the method. You've been programmed to believe that real change only happens when it's radical. That you need to cut everything off at once. That you need to chase after your new life as if it were a 100-meter sprint. But life isn't a 100-meter sprint. It's a marathon. And marathons demand stamina, rhythm, consistency. That's why so many people fall before the first turn. That's why so many plans die in the first week. Now let me tell you a story. Years ago, in Japan, in the midst of a crisis, factories were failing. Workers were demotivated. The country needed to rebuild, but everything seemed too big, too difficult, too slow. It was then that a group of experts decided that if the country couldn't change quickly, it would change slowly. If they couldn't transform everything, they would transform one tiny thing at a time. Tighten a screw more carefully. Rearrange a shelf. Eliminate waste. 5 minutes a day. One adjustment at a time. Small victories that no one noticed. Until suddenly, everything was different. These improvements multiplied like a chain reaction. Productivity skyrocketed. Quality became a global benchmark. Japan changed. Not because of giant leaps, but because of taking small steps every day. If it worked for an entire country, why wouldn't it work for you? Now imagine your own life as that factory, full of automatic processes, full of habits you don't even think about anymore. Some efficient, others destroying you from the inside. That's where Kaizen comes in. Like someone walking beside you and whispering, "Just improve a little bit now, that's all." Does it seem too small? It's meant to seem that way, because that's how the mind accepts it. That's how change happens without resistance. And when you realize it, you're already too far to turn back. Perhaps right now, you're thinking about something you really want to achieve. Maybe it's health, discipline, purpose, clarity, balance. That idea is on your mind right now. Can you feel it? Then answer this for yourself. What's the smallest thing I can do today to get closer to it? If the answer seems ridiculously small, you're probably on the right track. But there is something even more important. The invisible reward of continuity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you create a new identity within yourself. The identity of someone who gets things done. Someone who doesn't give up. Someone who deserves to move forward. And that changes everything. Kaizen does something no one has taught you before. It directly links change to the pleasure of progressing, not to the burden of sacrifice, not to the fear of failure. When you start trusting yourself, a simple thing happens. You stop giving up. Not because you've become stronger, but because you've stopped depending on strength. You start depending on habits. And habits don't ask for permission. They just happen. Now think about this. What if, starting tomorrow, you began to face only 1% of your chaos each day? What if each vice, each procrastination, each fear were gradually reduced until they lost their importance? What if the things that seem impossible today became natural? That wouldn't be magic. That would be Kaizen. But there's something no one expects when they start. An unexpected turn of events. Sometimes a small step propels you towards a giant leap. Sometimes changing one detail changes everything. Sometimes rearranging a single piece makes the whole board work. And it's about this secret that we'll talk about in the next part. How micro habits create macro results. How small choices alter your destiny. How the simple transforms the extraordinary. And when you understand that, you'll never look at a small step the same way again. There's something very powerful about Kaizen that almost no one immediately realizes. When you change a habit, you're not just changing an action, you're changing how your brain understands who you are. And this change in identity is what produces profound and lasting results. The brain works like a great energy saver. It automates everything it can to avoid expending effort. Therefore, a habit is like a path in the middle of the forest. The more you walk it, the more the trail opens up, the easier it becomes to repeat. Kaizen makes you open new trails every day until the old paths cease to make sense. The key insight is that the brain doesn't know the difference between a small habit and a big habit. It only knows that you are repeating something. Even a minimal action, if done consistently, reprograms your mind and redefines your self-image. When you do something simple like drinking a glass of water in the morning, you send an internal message: I take care of myself. When you read a page a day, you say, I am someone who learns. The effect is silent but devastating. Little by little, you stop seeing yourself as someone who tries to change and start seeing yourself as someone who changes. And here comes an uncomfortable revelation. Most people don't give up because they lack strength. They give up because they feel they are fighting against themselves. The effort seems greater than the benefit. The pain comes before the reward. Kaizen reverses this. It brings an immediate sense of victory, because any small action accomplished is already a victory. There is no longer that brutal gap between wanting and doing. You don't need to be a hero. You just need to start. But why do we always start by imagining something big and impossible? Why do we set goals that scare us before we even try them? Who convinced us that transformation has to be painful? The answer might be uncomfortable. We've been conditioned to admire results, not processes. We applaud those who lost 20 kilos, but ignore the 90 days that person spent waking up early to walk. We applaud those who became rich, but we don't see the years of study and mistakes behind it. We were taught to see the mountain peak, but nobody talks about the short, sometimes slow steps, dodging stones, catching our breath. Kaizen restores value to the journey. It reminds you that the greatest human achievements were built with almost invisible movements. What if you stopped measuring your results by size and started measuring them by consistency? What if the comparison was only with who you were yesterday? How would that change the weight you carry now? Imagine someone who wants to write a book. They've been dreaming about it for years, but freeze up whenever they see that blank page. The project seems too big, too daunting, too time-consuming, so they write nothing. Zero. Now imagine that same person deciding to write just one line a day. A single sentence. Something they can do effortlessly and without fear. Days pass, then weeks, then months. When they realize it, they already have complete pages. The story has come to life. Writing has become a habit. And the book, which once seemed impossible, is now there. Real, physical, built word by word. Small actions create great legacies. What if the difference between failure and success was just that one sentence a day? What are you missing out on? Because you believe the first step needs to be huge. The same applies to those who want to take better care of themselves. Instead of promising to work out for an hour a day, why not do 5 minutes? Instead of cutting out everything that's bad for you, Why not reduce a little each day? Instead of trying to be someone completely different tomorrow, why not be just 1% better today? This number seems abstract, but consider this. 1% per day over a year doesn't represent 365%. It represents something much bigger. It represents an exponential change. It represents a transformed life. What if that 1% started now? Without planning, without complications, without waiting for a perfect Monday that never comes. There's also a curious effect. The more you progress, the more you want to progress. The mind begins to fall in love with the process. You start to feel strange when you don't do that little habit. The movement becomes natural, almost inevitable. Change ceases to be an effort and becomes identity. You stop being someone in transition and become someone evolving. And when that happens, life changes perspective. There is no longer a finish line. There is only the next step. But here's the point that almost no one mentions. Kaizen doesn't eliminate difficulties. It eliminates excuses. It doesn't prevent problems. It prevents problems from stopping you. It's like turning on a small light in a dark room. Maybe you still can't see everything clearly, but now you know where to go. And that small certainty is enough to keep you moving, even through the most turbulent times. So tell me, what would happen if you adopted just one micro-habit today? What would change in a month, in a year? What if that simple gesture was the beginning of the biggest transformation of your life? In the next chapter, we'll reveal how to plan your own Kaizen steps, how to create triggers that facilitate action, how to shape the environment so that change becomes inevitable, and how to build a progress system that never allows you to return to square one. Don't worry, you won't do this alone. I'll guide you through every detail. But first, take a deep breath and get ready, because from now on, transformation ceases to be theory and begins to become practice. Now that you understand how small actions can transform your destiny, we need to go further. We need to make this process inevitable. And to do that, it's necessary to understand something simple, but that changes everything. The environment shapes who you become. It's no use trying to develop new habits in a scenario that pushes you towards old ones. The brain will always choose what requires the least effort. It will always follow the already known path. That's why changing the environment is one of the most powerful pillars of Kaizen. If you want to drink more water, leave the bottle next to you. If you want to read more, leave the book in sight. If you want to eat better, fill your refrigerator with good food before hunger strikes. A micro decision made in advance can eliminate dozens of difficult decisions in the future. And this isn't theory, it's science. Researchers at Duke University discovered that over 40% of our daily actions are automatic. We don't think, we repeat, every day. And if we're repeating something, it's because the environment invites us to repeat it. Now think about how many bad habits exist in your life that you didn't consciously choose. Often they happen simply because they were within your reach. Kaizen gives you back control. It transforms you into the architect of your own path. There's a curious story about this. At a hospital in the United States, nutritionists wanted to encourage employees to drink more water without forcing anyone or imposing rules. What did they do? They simply changed the location of the drinks. The water, which was previously hidden at the back of the cafeteria, was placed closer to people. Soft drinks were placed in less visible locations. The result? In a few weeks, water consumption skyrocketed and soft drink consumption dropped drastically. No one needed convincing. The environment did the work. Now imagine doing this with your entire life. What would it be like if every space around you helped you get closer to what you want? What would it be like if you could schedule your day to work in your favor, even when you're tired or unmotivated? That's Kaizen working silently and strategically. Another essential point, rewards. The brain loves rewards. It needs to feel that the action was worthwhile. When you reward yourself after completing a micro-habit, your body releases dopamine, the pleasure hormone. This dopamine creates motivation to repeat the action, and the more you repeat it, the stronger the habit becomes. Therefore, in the beginning, celebrate everything. Celebrate it, then the brain registers. That's good. I want more. Over time, the pleasure will not be in the external reward, but in the act of evolving itself. You start doing it for the result, and end up doing it because you have become who you are. There's an impressive story about this in Japan. A factory worker decided to apply Kaizen to something simple. She wanted to keep her desk organized. Every day before leaving, she would put everything in its place. It was quick. It didn't even take 2 minutes. Her colleagues laughed, thinking it was all an exaggeration. But weeks later, they noticed something strange. She never missed deadlines. She never stressed about mess. She never had to look for documents. Her productivity increased so much that the company started applying the same idea to the entire team. In 1 year, the factory won national performance awards, and it all started with a tidy desk. This is how small actions transform into big consequences. A tiny change here creates a domino effect capable of knocking down even the biggest obstacle in your life. But there's something even more surprising. When you start improving one aspect of your life, others start improving along with it. You make your bed and feel like cleaning up your room. You do 5 push-ups and soon you want to take better care of your diet. You read a page and suddenly you're interested in learning other things. Progress creates progress. The brain thinks, if I've progressed here, I can progress there too. Deep down, we never want to remain average. We just need proof that we can be better. The question is, are you willing to take that first step, even a small one? Are you willing to be patient with your progress? Are you willing to overcome the temptation of instant gratification that has made you give up so many times? In Kaizen, the question isn't, how fast can I get there? But rather, how can I keep going without stopping? It's not about intensity, it's about continuity. It's about creating a life where growth is natural. A life where you surprise yourself every time you look back. But, of course, not everything will be simple. There will always be difficult days. Days when your mind will give up. Days when you will miss your comfort zone. And it is precisely there, in the midst of this silent battle, that you distinguish those who truly change from those who give up. The difference between giving up and winning often lies in doing just a little bit more on that day when you wanted to do nothing. Just a little bit. Just enough to not break the cycle. In the next chapter, we'll reach the deepest part of this journey. The moment to confront that old version of yourself that tries to paralyze you. We'll reveal why resistance increases when you're about to evolve, and how to overcome this barrier without suffering and without fear. You'll understand that the transformation you desire isn't somewhere far away. It's happening now, inside you, at the exact moment you decide to continue. Get ready, because what comes next could be the turning point you've been waiting for your whole life. From the moment someone grasps the magic of the Japanese system, something difficult to admit happens. A silent fear arises. The fear that, by changing a little each day, the world around them will begin to expect more, to demand more, to require a version of themselves that they don't yet know if they can sustain. It is on this border of expectation and uncertainty that many give up. Not for lack of ability, but for believing that the result is only worthwhile if it comes quickly, if it is impressive from the start. Kaizen, however, reveals the truth that no one wants to hear. What is built too quickly usually crumbles just as fast. But what starts small, discreet, almost imperceptible, takes deep root before anyone even notices. Some people, when starting small daily actions, feel frustrated when they don't see immediate changes. They believe they are doing too little. But doing too little is not a mistake. Doing too little is the way. Imagine a writer who decides to write only 1 paragraph a day. 1 paragraph is ridiculous, right? Not when, after a few months, they have a complete book in hand. Imagine someone who starts by taking care of a single dish in the sink. It seems pointless. Until, without realizing it, keeping the kitchen clean becomes a natural habit. That's how Kaizen works. It tricks the lazy brain with movements so simple that there is no resistance, and before the mind wakes up to sabotage it, the change has already happened. But there's a critical point in the journey. The moment the first signs of progress appear, the pants that start to fit better, the routine that becomes less tiring, the work desk that stays organized for longer. At that moment, the brain tries to seduce you with 2 dangerous traps. The first is pride. I've done a lot, I can relax now. The second is doubt. Is this really making any difference? Both try to interrupt the process just when it starts to work. And that's where the power of silent continuity comes in. You keep going even when nobody notices. You move forward even when the world seems to stand still. You persist even without applause, because you know that in the end, the one who will applaud you the most is yourself. Now imagine a twist. What if you were just one small step away from the result you've always wanted, without even knowing it? What if the exact day you think about giving up was precisely the last obstacle before transformation? How many dreams do you believe died a millimeter away from victory because someone decided that progress was too slow? Kaizen warns, slow progress is not a failure, it's a strategy. Nature moves that way. The body adapts that way. Character is strengthened that way. There are also those who face external saboteurs, people who laugh at their efforts, who say it's a waste of time, who provoke them with phrases like, "Is that all you're going to do?" They laugh at your beginnings because they never had the courage to start their own. Those who lack discipline tend to disbelieve those who are trying to acquire it. Therefore, the greatest secret of the Japanese system is not the size of the actions, but their silence. Changes that are too big frighten, attract attention, and provoke opposition. Small changes go unnoticed and work. One day you simply appear transformed, and those who doubted you won't even understand how you did it. Along this path, it's common to feel anxious about not seeing the complete destination. But Kaizen doesn't want you to see everything. It wants you to see the next step. That's all. The GPS of transformation indicates the route little by little. If it showed everything at once, you would give up before even starting. There's a profound wisdom in this. The journey doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be lived. As you act, the path reveals itself. When you dedicate a minute, the second appears. When you take the first step, the next becomes possible. The most curious thing is that Kaizen isn't limited to eliminating bad habits. It creates a new identity. Little by little, you stop being someone who tries and become someone who does. Repetition doesn't just shape behavior. It sculpts the person you will be for years to come. And that's the true impact of the method. It plants within you the certainty that change is inevitable when there is consistency. Small, accumulated actions are an unstoppable force. So if today you feel you're doing little, I want you to remember something. Yesterday, you might not have even been doing this. And tomorrow, you will do even more. Progress loves movement, and movement can be minimal. Perhaps you don't realize it, but you've already begun to occupy a new space in the world. A space that was previously empty because you didn't believe you could fill it. Now, it's becoming yours. Every gesture, every attempt, every repetition is paving a road that only you can travel. In the end, the Japanese method makes you a silent promise. If you persevere, even slowly, the result will be extraordinary. Nothing that grows every day remains small forever. You've already taken the first steps. The next is to maintain the pace. It doesn't matter the speed, it doesn't matter who's watching. What matters is that you keep going, because the impossible is nothing more than the possible repeated many times. And when you finally look back, you'll realize that the version of yourself you doubted has become so distant that it doesn't even seem to have ever existed. We've reached the end of this journey, and perhaps you're thinking that all this sounds too good to be true in real life. But the truth is the opposite. The Japanese method only works in real life. It doesn't require endless motivation, grand decisions, or heroic courage. It depends only on something you already have, the ability to do a little, even when tired, even without the will, even in silence. And each time you do that little bit, you rewrite your destiny. It may sound too philosophical, but it's simply human. What we repeat daily shapes who we are. And if today you start repeating actions that point towards the life you desire, tomorrow will no longer be the same because of it. Take a moment to breathe. Think about something you've wanted to change for a long time. It could be a small habit that bothers you, the mess on your desk, the lack of reading, the difficulty of exercising, the addiction to endless scrolling. Now imagine you decide to tackle this with Kaizen, not with grand plans, but with a minimal gesture. A book, a page, your body, a 2-minute stretch. The mess, a single object put away in its proper place. It seems ridiculous. It seems irrelevant. But that's how it all begins. Change hides within small movements. Because small movements don't scare, don't hurt, don't paralyze. They just happen. To make this even more practical, you can apply a simple tool that the Japanese use right now. Ask yourself, what is the step so small that it would be impossible to say no? That's your starting point. Not what you think is ideal, not what others would find impressive. Whatever is so simple that your brain doesn't even bother to invent excuses. This step can change your life because it starts the cycle. Today you do a little. Tomorrow, a little more. The day after tomorrow, a little more. And when you notice, what once seemed impossible will already be integrated into your routine. What would you do today if you knew that one small daily action would be enough to become the person you've always wanted to be? Would you start now or invent yet another excuse? The difference between those who change and those who stand still is rarely in talent. It's in the willingness to begin. And starting small is starting at the most powerful level there is. People who wait for the perfect moment end up watching their opportunities pass by the window. People who start however they can transform any place into the best place to start. Life is asking you to act slowly, to allow your progress to be silent at first, so that the roots grow before the tree appears. The seed doesn't feel weak for being small. It knows it already carries within it everything it needs to become gigantic. You carry that too. You just need to water it daily with small choices that bring you closer to who you want to be. And when you make a mistake, because you will, remember something important. A slip-up doesn't undo everything that has been built. In Kaizen, each return to the plan is a greater victory than never having failed. True discipline lies not in never falling, but in restarting so quickly that the fall makes almost no difference. A bad day doesn't ruin a good month. A pause doesn't destroy the process. Persisting, even slowly, keeps your future alive. So here's a direct invitation. Choose one thing. Just one. Something so small it might seem silly. And start today, before you go to sleep, or as soon as you finish this video, and do it again tomorrow. And then. Let time work for you. Living in a war with yourself is too exhausting. The gentleness of Kaizen restores the lightness of existing with purpose. If you've made it this far, you've already proven to yourself that you have the patience and focus to change whatever you want. Perhaps this is the first great victory of your new life. Now, take a deep breath, look at the person you are, and the person you are becoming. The future is not far away. It is being built while you watch this video. If this content touched you in any way, made you think or made you realize that there's still time to start over, I invite you to join this community. Leave a like because it helps us reach those who also need this message. Comment below, even if it's just "I'm going to start," even anonymously. Share your first small action, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming content that will continue to guide you in this transformation. You've already started by changing something today. You've dedicated time from your life to learning how to take better care of it. Now all that's left is to continue, one small action at a time, until the extraordinary becomes inevitable.